So in this video, I'm going to test what editing software is the best, including CapCut, InShot, and iMovie. And I'm talking about the mobile version of all these. And no, I'm not going to make many separate movies that are stop motion for these. I'm just going to take 2 stop motions I've already made that are like 8 seconds and just edit them through all these softwares. But first, let's look at the stop motions unedited. So here is animation number 1. Here's animation number 2. So let's get editing animation number 1 so it looks a bit better. So keep in mind, I've been using CapCut for 5 months, so it's kind of unfair. But I would say CapCut is a pretty good editing software if you're like beginning or you've been pretty experienced with editing. But if you're like really good at editing, I would recommend using something better. So this is what animation 1 looks like now. That looks a lot better, but let's move on to animation number 2. So ignore the weird noises, that's me trying out different music. And I ended up going on a spree of finding YouTube sound effects, but I would say this one turned out a little better than the last one. Again, I've used CapCut a lot, so it's kind of unfair to compare it to InShot and iMovie, which I've not used at all. Here is animation number 2 edited. Okay, that looks a lot better than the original. But now, I think we should move on to InShot. Okay, so I have never used InShot before, and ignore the weird noises again, it's me choosing music, but this one's a lot different than CapCut because I have never used this software before. The only reason I'm actually using this one is because a YouTuber, Easy Animations, recommended it, and I think it's pretty good. Here's animation number 1, edited. That turned out really well, but now we should try editing animation number 2. This was the exact same experience I had before. So here's animation number 2 that was edited in InShot. That one looks better than the original one, but my problem with InShot is the sound effects are really low quality and there's not that many of them. On the other hand, why is the music in InShot so good? And whatever, let's move on to iMovie. Now for iMovie, the software that is utterly frustrating and annoying. It took me like 30 minutes to figure out just how to add music, and the music still kind of sucked. But yeah, this software is really hard to use. Here's animation number 1 edited in iMovie. That took me 30 minutes to make. And whatever, let's look at the other one. Animation number 2. The second time it was a little less frustrating. Ignore the weird noises, that's me trying to pick music. But this is still just an editing software I'm probably never going to use again. It's probably going to be deleted right off the phone. But yeah, it's just okay. And this entire video was edited in CapCut. Here are the results of editing with iMovie for the second time. Now for what you've all been waiting for, the results. First place is CapCut because it's just easy to use. Second place is InShot because it's also pretty easy to use. And finally iMovie, the worst one out of them all by far. It's just terrible, like come on. Now these are all personal opinions. That does not mean that CapCut is the best. Does not mean iMovie is the worst. It just means I personally like CapCut the best.